Hi everybody, and happy Sunday once again. It's first Sunday of June, and it's a hot one down here in Tennessee today. And I've got my missal with me, but today is the second Sunday after Pentecost, which is a Sunday widely recognized in many apostolic Christian circles as Corpus Christi, or the Feast of Corpus Christi, which literally means the sacrifice, or the sacrifice of Christ. And it celebrates the Holy Communion, which many churches, as far as I know, just about every church participates in the rite of Holy Communion. Now, the views on it are very different. In the churches I grew up in, they didn't think much of the communion, really. They simply believed that it was a memorial, that whenever we break the bread, which was often a little chip, and a little cup, which was often Welch's grape juice, they simply believed that it was a memorial. Everything we was doing was symbolizing Christ's suffering, the breaking of his body, and the wine, which symbolized his blood. Now, as I got older and started looking into historic Christianity and started looking into the mainstream churches that have apostolic succession, they can trace their ordinations back to the apostles, I seen that the ancient belief was actually the belief in the real presence, that Christ was literally present with us whenever we take the elements. And the bread meant a whole lot more than just simply taking it and then just sitting there and remembering for a minute or two Christ's sacrifice. Christ was literally with us. And I 100% now believe in the real presence, and Corpus Christi celebrates the real presence of Christ, the real presence of his body in the bread, and the real presence of his blood in the wine, and that it is a literal meeting of heaven and earth. The communion is the center of worship, and in my opinion, communion should be celebrated every Sunday, because something I've noticed about a lot of churches that believe in the communion being a memorial, they only celebrate the communion maybe twice a year. Heck, well, I've known of some churches that do it once a year, and then others, do it various times a year. Some of them, do it monthly or quarterly or so forth, but the least importance that is placed on communion, the least frequently it seems to be done. And that's my opinion, that it needs to be done weekly, because historically the apostles done the Lord's Supper or the Holy Rite of Communion every week. And I think that's something we should get back to. That should be the center of worship, because when a person comes forward and they either kneel or they stand and they receive the bread and break it, and they receive the wine and take the wine, you are literally receiving the body and blood of Christ in his spirit. The Spirit of Christ is with you, and he is literally present there that day. And we really need to not think of it so much as a memorial, which the whole thing does symbolize. There is a whole lot of symbolic element there, and it is a literal remembrance of the sacrifice, but we need to think of it as a whole lot higher than that. It is a literal meeting of heaven and earth, and that is what Corpus Christi celebrates today. And whenever I take the communion, myself, I'm a traditionalist. I still fast on the morning before communion, because historically, a lot of Christians would fast for up to 24 hours before they receive communion. Because of physical problems I have, I can't do it for a whole 24 hours, but I do fast on the mornings that my church does communion, because I definitely believe that's the right thing to do. But to everybody out there, I hope everybody's having a wonderful Sunday. If anybody wants to do any more research on historic views of the communion, I definitely would always start in the Bible and the Gospels, because every one of the Gospel stories recounts the story of how the Holy Communion was instituted to us on Maundy Thursday. This is my body which is broken for you. This is my blood which is spilled for you. But looking into the church fathers, many of them who walked with the apostles and wrote down records of how the church worship was going on in those days, all of them attest to weekly communion and a belief in the real presence there. Definitely something always to look into. I love you all so much. Thank y'all for always following me. Thank you for your support, all the personal messages I get, and thank you for my encouragement. Love you all. Happy Corpus Christi, and a happy, wonderful month of June to you. This month of June is the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus.